Hi, guys, and welcome to another Mercury Astro podcast. We are here today to talk to you guys about tarot and astrology. We host the Denver Astrology Group, and in order to make the information that we share at this astrology group meetup a little bit more accessible to those who aren't in the Denver area, we've decided to make this little fun podcast where we just sit down and kind of chat about what our discussion at the Denver Astrology Group was about, what we learned, what we take away from it, and just kind of what we discussed in general in order to, again, make that information a little bit more accessible to everybody. So my name is Rosalie. I am a practicing astrologer, body piercer, and occultist. I am a Virgo sun, a Sagittarius rising, and an Aquarius rising, and a Sagittarius moon, with also a Virgo Mercury, and I use they them pronouns.
Amazing. And my name is Bren. I also use they them pronouns, and I am a professional astrologer and card reader. Tarot is included in that. And I am a Pisces sun, Aries moon, Aries rising, Aquarius, Mercury.
Nice. So a couple disclaimers before we get into this. Tarot originated as a playing card game. All right. Meaning is very arbitrary and very individualized, very specific to Bren's way of reading cards is going to be different than my way of reading cards. But I feel like with any reading, both of us will agree the cards and what they mean are going to be circumstantial.
For sure. And there's a lot of traditional meanings. Well, and by traditional, that also itself is arbitrary. Yeah. But like symbolism in itself can mean a lot of different things to different people. So that's the point we're trying to make here.
So for consistency's sake, we will be using the Golden Dawns associations with major and minor arcana tarot cards, even mentioning a lot of the titles of the cards that the Golden Dawn has associated with these cards. A lot of these will be found in like a Thoth deck, things like that. But that being said, we recognize the cultural appropriation of the theologian circle and do not condone what they have done historically, but are not justifying their collective actions by any means, shape, or form, but simply using them as a means of ease of access.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So a little deep dive into the history of tarot. Its origins are super, super vague. A lot of people speculate China they originated. Some people say India. Some people say Egypt even. It's really up for debate, and we don't have a lot of that history, unfortunately. And that's mostly because a lot of playing cards, were hand painted and made for like very wealthy individuals. They were not kept by like everyday people, and they weren't very mass produced. And it wasn't really until like the 18th century that meaning became attributed to tarot cards specifically. So there's a lot of history in which tarot cards don't exist. And there's a lot of history in which what we now use as tarot cards with the major arcana, the minor arcana, and all of the court cards was a playing card game first and foremost. That people were like, oh, this kind of tells a little story. Let's attribute meaning to it. And that, again, wasn't until like 18th century French occultists. So.
Yep. So, and the art of reading cards is called?
Oh, Cartomancy.
Yep. I always mispronounce it. So thank you.
Of course. So we're just kind of going to break down the major and minor arcana tarot associations with astrology, starting with the major arcana and really focusing on that for a hot second. All of the celestial bodies in astrology have a tarot card associated to them, starting in descending Chaldean order with outer planets thrown in, which isn't technically Chaldean order, but we have Pluto being the judgment card or the spirit of the primal fire, Neptune as the hanged man or the spirit of the mighty waters, Uranus as the fool or the spirit of ether, Saturn as the world or the great one of the night of time, Jupiter as the wheel of fortune or the lord of the forces of life, Mars as the tower or the lord of the hosts of the mighty, Venus as the empress or the daughter of the mighty ones, the sun as the sun, you guessed it, or the lord of the fire of the world, Mercury as the magician or the magus of power, and the moon as not the moon tarot card, but instead the high priestess or the priestess of the silver star. And that's actually something that we discussed kind of heavily at the meetup, was the difference between the sun being associated with the actual sun tarot card, but the moon not being associated with the moon tarot card.
The moon tarot card is associated with the sign Pisces.
And would you say a little bit as to why you'd feel like that like ties in a little bit better than the and
Well,
like why the moon and the high priestess.
I don't know if I necessarily
Symbolically.
agree. I know you described this yesterday, but like, I don't know. To me, it would make sense for the moon to be the moon in the tarot, but understanding like, sure, the traditional reasonings of tarot, I understand like what you were saying last time, which was like the moon card is more of those illusions and dreamy, like kind of like the Piscean nature, whereas the high priestess is more of that intuition, moony kind of
just like understanding
energy.
your physical body and the realm that you're in and all of your senses, as well as your heightened sense of like subconscious understanding of self
and the femininity that is often associated with the moon itself as well.
No, 100%.
Yeah. Amazing. The divinity of the high priestess.
I guess. But yeah, that's just where I got like the association of it. I don't know. I just figured because you're Piscean.
I mean, yeah.
Do you relate more to the like
the
moon
card?
card?
The moon card to me is a little sus, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just because I understand it totally makes sense with it being associated with Pisces. That being said, it's also like deception and like illusions, things like that. So, I mean, I personally also am like,
I feel like there's deception in Pisces, but it's not malicious.
It doesn't have to be necessarily malicious, but sometimes it is.
It can be.
It's like manipulation. You can manipulate for obviously malicious reasons, but also you can manipulate just because.
But you could do that with any sign.
Yeah.
Like I actually say that a lot about Geminis. Geminis, I feel like is a lot of that dynamic of like you can have somebody who will lie to like cover the truth in a good way versus somebody who's lying to be malicious.
Yep.
Like just to fucking lie about it.
Yeah. For sure.
Or at least abuse of knowledge in that kind of way with Gemini, whereas like with Pisces, it's an abuse of emotions.
Ooh, that's a good way of saying it for sure.
Because it really is. If you have like a negative Pisces energy, it's somebody who has like a self-sacrificial martyr complex.
Yeah.
They're like, I have given so much up for you. It's the parent that's like,
it's like woe is me. It's also like that victimhood of like I give so much, like I receive nothing, like woe is me.
I raised you. You chose to raise me. This is your fucking responsibility to feed and yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, moving forward with the zodiacs of as the major arcana. We have what order did we go in for this as well? Did you want to talk a little bit about the order?
Oh, I just went it's in zodiacal order, but I started with Cancer. One, just to spite Bren being an Aries.
I was so like when I saw this on the presentation, I was like, okay, excuse me, why is Aries not first? That makes no sense.
You're always first.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that.
Cancer is the birth ascendant of the hypothetical world chart. So I just went with the theme of Monday, Cancer rising, started with Cancer, just went in zodiacal order from there.
That's okay. At least it's still in zodiacal order after that.
Cancer's so nurturing. It's the birth of the
okay, I'm literally a simp for Cancers, so yeah.
That's so funny though, because like, where is Cancer in your chart?
My 4th house. I'm an Aries rising.
Right. So my Cancer placement is in my 6th house or my 5th house. Because
yeah. Wait,
no, it's my 6th house because it's right before Leo and Leo's my 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's my 6th house. And my chronic illness is emotional turmoil due to manipulation and trauma. I hate Cancers.
What's your placement? North Node? Wait,
no, I have no placements in Cancer.
Oh,
I have no 6th.
It's
just my 6th. And then I mean, I got some asteroids there if you really want to break it down to like weird and hypothetical, non-even goddess asteroids. But yeah,
sure. Yeah. Well, we love Cancer. That's who we're starting with. So the tarot card for. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No hate to Cancers. I really don't dislike you that much. It's just sometimes just be a little consistent.
You know.
Inconsistently consistent is not consistent.
It depends on, which aspects of the sign you're expressing at the moment, because everyone does have the healthy expression or the unhealthy expression.
And everybody's got more than just one sign in their chart too.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to like be like, I hate everybody with any Cancer placement. I have clients that I fucking adore. Claire, for example, is a Cancer sun.
We love Claire.
Yeah.
Claire's a baddie. Okay.
We'll have to have her on next time.
Yes. Okay. So
yes, sorry.
The tarot card for Cancer is the Chariot, child of powers of the water. Leo is the Strength card, daughter of the flaming sword. Virgo is the Hermit, and that's actually the card of the year because it's associated with the number 9. And in numerology, if you add up 2025 altogether, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 is 9. So numerology, 9, the Hermit year.
I know, Bren told me about that, and I was like, oh my God, it's my year. It's all Virgo's year because Virgo is associated, obviously, with the Hermit. So
yes.
made me feel really nice and happy. It's also my birth year card. So if you take my birth year and do that same thing, it's the same thing. I know I do. I keep clicking myself with my little
like ties. Okay. Wonderful. So yeah, the Hermit is the Magus of the voice of light. Libra is the Justice card, daughter of the Lords of Truth. Scorpio is the Death card, Lord of the Gates of Death. Sagittarius is Temperance, daughter of the Reconcilers. Capricorn is the Devil, Lord of the Gates of Matter. Aquarius is the Star card. It's the daughter of Firmament, dweller between the waters. Pisces, as we talked about before, is the Moon card, ruler of flux and reflux. Aries is the Emperor, son of the morning, chief among the mighty. Taurus is the Hierophant, Magus of the eternal God. And finally, Gemini is the Lovers, children of the voice divine. So, yeah, we love all these cards. No, I would love to continue to talk about how we can also use these to build our own astrology chart with using each of these placements. So if you wanted to learn more about your astrology chart within the realm of tarot, you can then pull each of these cards. So say you are a Cancer sun, you can then pull the Sun card for your sun sign, and then you can also pull the Chariot card, which signifies Cancer. And so then you can pair those two together to kind of get more information through imagery to see how your sun sign might be expressed. So additionally, you can do your moon sign. So then you pull the High Priestess, which signifies the moon card, and then say your moon, like Rosalie, is in Sagittarius. So then you'd also pull the Temperance card. And you could do this with your entire chart. The only card we do not have is your rising sign. You could maybe pick one that you want, but by pairing this together and building your entire chart, you can get a better idea of how your astrology is expressing through the tarot.
And one of the things that we actually discussed in our meetup was how influential specific imageries of different decks can be. So we all actually we didn't even put it in the meetup, but everybody brought their own tarot deck, which was pretty fucking
and they were all different. They all had different expressions.
And the one that I have, I'll show here, is just the Hermetic tarot. And it has these exact astrological correspondences like hidden in the card, which like 3 of Cups, that's like the Venus Decan of Cancer. We'll get into that in a second. Yeah, so it has those imageries in there. And I like didn't even play. It's literally just a deck that I carry on me like all the time. I'm actually missing a card out of here and I didn't know it until we did this. And it's funnily enough the card that I pulled for multitudes of people recently. So I'm actually assuming that it's at work right now. And I have very strong intuition that it is there because I lose cards sometimes, but I always find that it's like a certain card for a certain reason for a certain amount of time. And Jupiter's retrograde right now, so.
It is. Yeah.
And
so is Mars, but not for too much longer. And then I also have a Zodiac deck, which is amazing. It is actually called the Zodiac Tarot. And the funny thing is, what card came up but the Magician, which is ruled by Mercury. And this is the Mercury Astrology podcast.
I love that.
So, so if you wanted to then look into your Mercury sign, so you would want to pull the Magician card, and it would be different imagery with different decks. You can play around with different decks and then pull whatever your Mercury sign is. So Aquarius for me would be the Star. So,
and then Virgo for me would be the Hermit. So yeah, we just did a little workshop thing where we had everybody like take out their decks and we all just went and was like, okay, take the Sun card and then find your sun sign correspondence for that. And just look at the imagery and just what does that speak to you? You know, what does that vibe with? Like for me personally, like I'm a star rising with a hermit sun and a temperance moon. Like that kind of describes me as an individual, like the hermit. So more, I feel like the hermit is very like Aquarius in nature too, because it's all about exileship. But I also do feel like Aquarius is way more like the visionary, like mad scientist, let me go experiment with this and like figure it out kind of jazz.
Well, and there's different like concentrations of those energies throughout your life. So like maybe during certain moments you're in that hermit energy more than like the temperance.
Oh, 1,000%. And I mean,
Also
just,
mixing them together.
yeah, just like there's certain times where like my sun sign energy is going to be more influential than my moon sign energy because there's more transits going through Virgo than there is Sagittarius.
So you as an Aquarius rising might be feeling maybe the sun even more because literally today the sun moved into Aquarius. So there's a spotlight on you, Rosalie.
And on Pluto.
Yes, and on Pluto.
Yay!
We love that.
And on my natal Uranus.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fine. Everything is fine. Everything is great and dandy, and I love it here. Capricorn risings are looking at all of us Aquarius risings right now and sitting and laughing and having the grand old time of their life. I'm looking at you, Claire, if you're watching this.
Because they just went through their
Pluto in the first house. Yeah.
So they're done with that now, which is great. But now it's in their second. So we're all moving through it in different areas of our life. It's okay.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to talk about maybe some, because I know that you do this a lot with like your clients and your own like tarot readings and stuff, like building their chart with their cards. Has there ever been like any significant times where somebody just looks at the imagery and all of a sudden it clicks for them?
Ooh, that's interesting. I actually like in client work, I usually like do workshops to teach them how to do it themselves. But I guess I would say I usually don't do that. I don't know.
That's valid.
So I don't know if you want to cut that part out.
No, it's fine. It's just sometimes, no, it's just like, I don't know. When you're explaining astrology things, I use a lot of analogies. And I was using one with Bren earlier about transits and their 3-degree applying sweet spot of just being like a car crash. You're going to remember right before that car crash way more than you're going to remember pulling away from that car crash. You know, it's going to be less on your mind as you're, I mean, it's still going to be on your mind, but in different ways than as it's happening. You're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Oh my God, it happened. Now now you're dealing with a lot of other things afterwards, obviously, but that's just sometimes how transits can be. And that's just like, I don't know, that was a good analogy that clicked, and now I'm going to use that analogy for everything else that I do.
Yeah. Well, what I will say about like using the tarot to understand your birth chart more is like when you look at your birth chart, it is a big like like mathematical like picture basically. So it doesn't really speak. I mean, it speaks to me personally, and Sally speaks to you.
No, all kinds of so sexy to me.
Yeah, I love looking at a chart. That said, like it just gives you a different perspective looking at imagery. I like to think of it as like a psychological Rorschach test. It's like whatever you see is speaking to you. So that's why I love color index, because that can maybe evoke different
called out.
Yeah, well,
with my black and white hermetic deck.
That's okay. I mean, you can get messages from any, but yeah, I just really appreciate the like people definitely pick up on different symbols and different aspects of a card depending on just their history, where they are in life. So maybe like if you build your birth chart with a deck right now, it might speak to you differently than even if you build that same deck with your astrology chart a year from now, you know.
That's true.
Different things speak to you.
I feel like there's a lot of power in imagery too. And I feel like that's a lot of things that I mean, that's why I love the Decans, is because the thing that we know about them the most, we don't have like a lot of script about them, like written text, but we have images.
Yep.
And images speak 1,000 words.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. All right.
So yeah, we can now further dissect your natal chart into astrology using the minor arcana and the court cards. So the first thing that I wanted to go over is that all of the like suits of the tarot deck have elemental correspondences. So for example, wands represent fire. So any wand card from aces to the king of wands, they're all going to represent fire in some sort of way, shape, or form. Swords are going to be represented by air, pentacles by earth, and then cups by water. So each suit of the tarot card has an elemental correspondence to it. And I was talking a lot about how, like, for historical reasons, I feel like that's probably what attributed astrological meaning to tarot, was as soon as elements got in there, you're like, you know what also has elements? Astrology, big brain moment here. Let's start dissecting this and seeing how it works. And then when you get court cards, the court cards individually also have elemental correspondences. These can vary depending on which one you want to go through. I feel like it's more logically understandable in my point of view to do kings as air, queens as water, knights as fire, and pages as earth. But there are a lot of theologians who say kings are fire and knights are air. So you just switch the two masculine signs, or active signs if you want to not use gender stereotypes. I always use like female and or feminine and masculine as like archetypes, but I don't realize that not everybody thinks of those two things as like extremes on a spectrum and not like absolutes.
For sure.
But so for example, if you have like the court cards for fire are going to be the Page of Wands, the Knight of Wands, the Queen of Wands, and then the King of Wands. So when you have all of those cards lined up, it's going to be Earth of Fire because it's page and pages represent Earth. And then you're going to have either Fire of Fire or Air of Fire, depending on which elemental association you would like to attribute to knights. And then Queens are going to be Water of Fire, so that's the Queen of Wands. And then the King of Wands is going to be either Air of Fire or Fire of Fire, again, depending on which one you specifically decide to attribute to knights and or kings.
And this just gives further information about like the energy of each of those cards. So if it's like Earth of Fire, it's Earth and Fire working together in an energy, an energetic exchange of some kind.
But Earth of Fire and Fire of Earth, although extremely similar, are still going to be different expressions of each other. So like Earth of Fire would probably be more of like molten lava, like obsidian. It's like molten lava, like hardened glass. It's hardened lava. Like that's Earth of a previous fire. And then Fire of Earth would be like a forest fire or like a burning, like clearing dead debris or like, burning dead wood or something like that. So there's different, both of them using the same exact elements, but completely different external outcomes. So that's where you get like the Page of Wands being different than the Page of Pentacles or coins, depending on whatever deck you're using and however that deck expresses that Earth suit.
Yeah. Well, and I would just say too, like as at least how I personally would view the card itself is like whatever the element is. So if it's a Pentacles card, that's going to have more strength than like the Earth. Well, I guess that one's not a good example, but like,
more strength. No, the fact that it's a wand card and the fact that it's fire in general is going to have more say over how that card interacts than the courtship of that card.
Yes.
So if it's a page or a king, it's still going to be fire regardless because it's still a wand card. It's just going to be a different flavor of fire.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. And then going into it with that same logic and that same elemental association, aces or the ones of each suit are going to be pure elemental energy. So like the Ace of Wands is just pure fire. And then we get into like 2 through 10. So similar to like a plain card deck, you get the aces and they're either trump or low cards. They're just pure energy in these cases.
I like to think of them. I was talking to the group about this yesterday as like seeds. Like you can plant a seed. It hasn't become like the flower yet. You know, it's like you can water it, but it's not completely in fruition yet. There's not a promise of that energy, but it's a potential.
These are very potential cards. 1,000%. Because when you have pure energy, it's not being used. It's kinetic. It's like the potential for movement is there. It's up to you and how you utilize it to put it into a fruition.
Yep.
As I fling my string again.
Yes.
Okay, so then with that, we can break it further down into astrology. So we have our fire signs, which are going to be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, related to the minor arcana of the Wands suit. On top of their normal correspondence of being the Emperor's strength and temperance.
Yep.
So
Sagittarius.
Those 3 cards will have those overarching major arcana cards as well as minor arcana cards as well. And the way that you break that up, so we have our elemental divisions through the suits, and then we have our divisions through the numbers of the cards. So we have 2 through 10 essentially to fill in now, and we can divide those, because that's 9 cards total, into sets of 3. And there's 3 signs in each sign, or in each element. So each sign gets assigned 3 cards. So the cardinal signs of each suit are going to be assigned to 2, 3, and 4.
Which would make sense because it's the starting energy. So 2, 3, and 4 is the beginning. So cardinal, that's how we can remember it. 2, 3s, and 4s are always cardinal.
Because Aries is the start of spring, Cancer is the start of summer, Capricorn is the start of winter, and Libra is the start of fall. They start off the seasons. Mm-hmm. And then those sweet spots of the seasons where the temperatures are their most extreme are the fixed signs. And that's where we get the 5, 6, and 7 of each suit. So that middling kind of area. So in fixed signs, we'll have Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius making up the 5, 6, and 7 of their respective suits. So like Scorpio would be the 5, 6, 7 of water or cups. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we get mutable signs taking those last 3 cards, the 8, 9, and 10 of each suit. So our mutable cards are those ending of the seasons, right when that transition or the changing of seasons starts to happen. That is where we get our Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces, and Gemini cards being associated with the 8, 9, and 10. And if you've listened to our podcast before, you know I am a major fan of this thing in astrology called the Decans, where you can divide each of the 12 zodiacal signs individually into 3 10-degree segments, making up different rulerships and different archetypal expressions of that overarchingly expressive sign. So to get into that a little bit more,
and before we get into that, I just wanted to say one more quick thing about the minor quirk or minor arcana. Hello, Kitty. Is that you can also read playing cards as the minor arcana. So minor arcana, yeah. So each of the suits of the minor of playing cards can be associated with the minor arcana. So like, for example, hearts is cups, diamonds is earth or pentacles, spades is swords, and clubs are wands. So if you know all of these like associations and things like that, you can therefore like even use playing cards, and then also including the court cards. You can read tarot as well with those.
And then technically that's cartomancy, because it's like a playing card deck. Yes. And it's not like used for tarot. And tarot is like now a specific with meaning kind of thing. And those major arcana were originally like trump cards in the playing game, and we don't have those same like trump cards in like a regular playing card deck.
Well, and we also only have 3 court cards within the playing card deck, which would be the jacks, the kings, and the queens. So we would be missing that knight energy or
page energy, whether you want to go with. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. But if you don't have a tarot deck, you can still read cards if you are familiar with it.
Just using a regular set of playing cards.
Yep.
So yeah, I will throw up this image real quick. So if you are watching the video version, I would highly recommend just taking a peep at it. If you are listening to this and not actually watching it, you can head over to our Instagram, and I have all of these images posted. But I took this Decan rulership wheel from the astrologydictionary.com. So big shout out to Chris Brennan for probably being the one who made this, or commissioned it at the very least, and at least posted it to the internet. So I'm going to give him credit where that is due. And I just kind of drew over it on my iPad. So for example, I take Taurus, which is the Hierophant card. I put the Hierophant on the outside of it. And then because Taurus is fixed earth, we're going to have the 5, 6, and 7 be split up into that first 10-degree segment, that second 10-degree segment, and that third 10-degree segment. So the 5 of coins, or the 5 of pentacles, being a card just about, I guess, loss, really. That's kind of a rough example. But that is the tarot card of, the Lord of Material Trouble, and that decan of Taurus is Mercury Venus ruled. And sometimes Mercury Venus ruled, that first decan of Taurus is like, you're trying to enjoy the fruits of your labor a little bit before you actually put in the hard work for it, which can lead to material trouble and strife, depending, not to say that if you have a 10-degree or at least a 9-degree Taurus personal planet that you're going to be bad with money. But just that kind of tarot archetype of that card can be found in that decan archetype of that sign's expression. And then furthering out the rest of that sign, we get the 6 of Pentacles with that 10-degree segment in the middle of Taurus, which is the Lord of Material Success, and it is Mercury Moon ruled. And then the last decan of Taurus being the 7 of Pentacles, or double Saturnian ruled, the Lord of Success Unfulfilled. Which is just more about, we discussed this because this was somebody's personal planet, because I had them name their big 3 in minor arcana tarot cards, and introduce themselves as their minor arcana tarot cards. And they were like, oh, success unfulfilled. And they were like kind of sad about that. And I was like, no. I know it's a sad card and it sounds horrible, but it's double Saturnian. It's like learning from your failures. It's like, okay, this didn't work out the way that I wanted, but let me try again and try better this time. Let me apply what I've learned in order to do better, to be better. Like, yeah, it's success unfulfilled, but for the betterment of your future success.
Yeah, if you never fail, like you never learn. It's like trines. If you have like a very trine heavy chart, things are way too easy. Like, how are you ever going to grow or do better? If you, yeah,
100%.
know you're going to win a race, why would you try? And then someone will beat you because you never actually put in the work.
Exactly.
Talent, what's that phrase? Talent. Oh, wait. Hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work. Put in the work. That's how I'm seeing Saturn.
Yeah.
In that.
100% in that decan of Taurus.
Yes.
And that just speaks to the archetypal expression of Taurus in general is a very hardworking sign. So like
slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. So that's just kind of how that like broader archetype can be slimmed down a little bit, and then it can be slimmed down further into associating with tarot. I also find that this method is super, super fun when doing readings with people who have no astrological understanding but are familiar with tarot. I get to be like, oh, you know the Three of Swords, right? Well, your Venus is in that exact decan of Libra. So like, yes, your Venus is in its domicile, but like the Three of Swords, when you pull it, are you ever really like happy about it? Depending.
Yeah. So another thing that we like taught our participants yesterday was how to find each of these decans. So if you're like confused right now and being like, okay, well, how do I actually know where my sun is within these decans? So they're all divided up into increments of 10 degrees. So it would start with 0 to 9 degrees and 59 minutes
and 59 seconds.
Yeah. So, and then it goes from 10 degrees to
19
degrees and 59
minutes and 59 seconds.
There you go. And then from there, it'd be 20 to
29, 59, 59.
Exactly. So, or it would be, yeah. So anyway, if you had like a sun, your sun is in 2 degrees of, let's say, Taurus, then that would be in the first decan. So that would qualify as that 5 of Pentacles energy. But say you have your moon in, let's say, 15 degrees of Cancer, that would be in that 3 or the second decan, which would then translate into the 3 of Cups.
I'll vaguely dox myself because I don't like sharing my astrology chart or the degrees of my astrology chart. My sun's at 17 degrees though, which throws it in the middle decan of Virgo. So I am the 9 of Pentacles, or the Lord of Material Gain sun. My ascendant is at 20 degrees and some change of Aquarius. So I would be the 7 of Swords, the Lord of Frugality or Frutility. And then my moon is at 16 degrees of Sagittarius. So I am again that middle decan of Sagittarius. So I'm the 9 of Wands, or the Lord of Strength.
Yeah. And I'll do mine too. So my sun is at 2 degrees of Pisces. So that would be 8 of Cups, Lord of Abandoned Success. And then I have my Aries rising at 9 degrees of Aries. Yep. So that would be the 2 of Wands. Yeah. Lord of Domination. And then I also have my moon at 7 degrees of Aries, which would also be the 2 of Wands, Lord of Domination.
Very domineering.
So if you're, anyway.
In your abandoned successes.
Okay. Let's hear it. So anyway, if you want to do that with your own chart, we do have that graphic on our YouTube right now. You can see and just kind of see which decan your placements fit in. You could do this for your entire chart. So you could also do, your Mercury and your Mars and all that stuff if you want to get further into knowledge of your chart through the tarot, through the decans.
I'm super sorry for my shitty handwriting.
Dude, your handwriting's great.
Yeah. So for example, my Mars would be in the 6 of Cups, that Lord of Pleasure. I always actually flex with that because the other 2 decans of Scorpio are not fun. And then that middle decan is kind of nice. So I get like the kind of like sweet spot of it to be like, haha, fuck you.
Yeah. Amazing.
Not really, but yeah, that's something that I always find super beneficial when like doing readings and stuff. And then sometimes it's also really fun too, because when you pull those cards, like when I pull the 9 of Pentacles reversed, I know that it's just saying, hey, you're not living up to your truest potential. You are not being the best version of yourself. You are not seeing yourself in the light that you need to be looking at yourself. And that's a whole different meaning than the 9 of Pentacles, because my sun placement is there. And I know that if I'm pulling it in a certain reading, obviously it could mean actually situational, that 9 of Pentacles reversed. I'm keeping up appearances. I'm trying too hard to like fit in with the in crowd kind of jazz. But rarely is that ever the case, because I actually genuinely don't give a fuck about what anybody thinks about me.
That's
so
wonderful.
It's the Aquarius rising. It really is. I care more about what I think of myself than what anybody else could ever think of me.
That's powerful.
Kind of.
Additionally, well, I wanted to talk about too reversals within these cards
That's a good way to
too,
do it, yeah.
because shout out to my friend Marlo who taught me this, but you can use this with any of the tarot energies. But if you do get a reversal, that's just like a retrograde energy. So if you are more familiar with astrology and you're familiar with retrograde energy, then you can see those reversals as retrogrades. So if you do have like, yeah, Leo, 2-degree planet like sun, let's just say, in that 5 of wands, but it's retro. Oh, I guess you can't
have a sun. I was just about to say that.
Let's say it's Mercury. Yeah. Mercury, Leo, retrograde at 2 degrees of Leo. That would be 5 of wands reversed, Lord of Strife reversed. So,
and reversals are not always negative expressions of tarot cards, just like retrogrades are not always negative expressions of that planet. Mars retrograde through Cancer, I know, has been giving a lot of people a lot of heat, but for Mars as a planet to be calm, cool, and collected right now is not like Mars at all. That's kind of okay for the collective. Not really, because it's Mars and it's detriment.
You would say that Mars in Cancer retrograde is calm, cool, and collected?
It's Mars as calm, cool, and collected, which does not mean it's very unnerving for everybody else. It's like when you feel like your motivations just like aren't there for the right reasons, and then you're having internal strife because of that. Like on top of that, so like for the collective, no, it's not calm, cool, and collected. But Mars is physically cooled down in Cancer. Yeah,
sure. Or it's just more internal or passive aggressive.
And it's slowed down in general too, because it's going backwards and slowing down and retrograding and getting around those points and like quite literally not moving as fast as it normally does.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, just like, I mean, a Mercury retrograde, everybody thinks is like the end of the world. And then you're like, hey,
it's just 3 times a
year. It's literally a third of the year we are in a Mercury retrograde.
And if you include the shadow, the pre,
it's more than half of the year.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, but anyway, sorry. That's just a pet peeve of mine when people like freak out about that.
But it's the most accessible retrograde that people have, so people hear it all the time. Like, oh my god, Mercury retrograde.
But that's just delays and frustrations in your everyday life. But like the Magician upright versus the Magician reversed isn't that different. The Magician reversed is just you have all of the tools at your disposal and you're actually using them, versus you have all of the tools at your disposal and you're blind to using. You're just not picking them up.
Depending on how you're viewing the card, sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, very vaguely and very broadly again. But I don't feel like reversals are always necessarily negative. Like I would much rather take a Tower reverse card any day of the week than a Tower upright card.
For sure. I can see that.
Yeah.
They're just different energies. Wonderful. And so if we had a Tower reverse, that would be a Mars retrograde.
Yeah, quite literally.
We're moving through right now.
Yeah, and I kind of it's unnerving and it's unsettling, and I don't like separation, but sometimes separation is necessary, and sometimes dealing with that and working through that is necessary for you to just take a step back and be like, okay, maybe I was a little bit too clingy and obsessive during this time, or like maybe I do need to give this person space, or maybe I do need to consider these feelings and these emotions of this other entity a little bit more cautiously than I have been in the past.
Well, and if we're thinking of the tarot, the Tower falling, it's like only what's not stable is what's falling away. You might still, then you can clear away to make a more sturdy foundation. So
that's how I describe people Saturn returns all the time. I'm like, you got to destroy and demolish that building down to its foundation, but it's because the foundation was cracking.
I don't know. I don't really see Saturn. I'm going through my Saturn return right now. Well, maybe this is just a new perspective I've never seen, but I definitely see that destruction more as Mars. Saturn's more like consequences, more like, okay, well, these are your behaviors. You can demolish that from that.
Saturn is like a planned demolition.
Sure. Okay.
This is like a very like structured, like refurbishing. It's like somebody buying like a beat up old house and like revamping it, but they have to like gut it all first.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense.
It's like that. Yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to be like,
oh no, I just,
trying to give it context.
That Martian energy versus
Saturnian.
Yeah.
Because I definitely see Mars in the Tower. That is like chaotic. You just had somebody push your entire building over and it's like on fire at the same time.
Yeah.
Saturn's like, all right, I've planned this for 18 months. I got all of my necessary permits. I'm going by code. We have like trucks lined up. Like this is going to take some time, kind of effort, energy.
Yep.
Because Saturn return lasts 3.5 years.
Yep.
Well, the way that Chris describes your Saturn return is like you build that foundation during your Saturn return, but then you leave your Saturn return into that Saturn aversion. So you'll experience it when Saturn goes into Aries, where you're just kind of standing on this blank set of really nicely laid foundation. And you're like, all right, well, how the fuck do I build this so I don't have to redo this again?
Right.
To where this can stand past the next 30 years into my double, like, Saturn. It's never you're gonna have to do it again. Your second Saturn return,
Yeah.
That's just how life is and that way universe is. But it's gonna be easier the second time around.
Well, depending on if you do the work, because Saturn is all about doing the work. If you don't do the work, you're going to suffer the consequences. That's the biggest thing that I've learned from my Saturn return so far. So, yep. All right.
Well, anything, else that you wanted to talk about with these?
No, I think that is good. We have our buddy Moonbeam here. Thank you, Moonbeam, for making an appearance.
Thank you, baby.
He needs some attention, so I definitely can relate. But if y'all have any questions, please feel free to leave us a comment. You can also reach us on Instagram at mercastropod and our personal Instagrams as well. My personal Instagram is at Bren Biggs, and all of this will be linked also in the show notes. And yours?
Mine is Astro Rosalie. I have momentarily deleted the app in order to boycott Meta's stocks for the next week and a half, so I won't be able to respond to DMs, but you can reach us through email as well at the
mercastropod@gmail.com.
Thanks,
friend. Which will also, again, be linked in the show notes.
And now that TikTok is not banned, this is also the day that TikTok was banned. This is Mac Miller's birthday that we're recording this on, January 19th. Yeah. But TikTok was banned for all of a couple hours today?
Oh, it was yesterday. It got banned
yesterday.
Last night, and then it got reinstilled today with a very propaganda message, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it's fine. But you can also reach out to me on there because that's still up and running. So my TikTok is also just Astro Rosalie.
Yeah. And just also astrologically, yesterday was Saturn conjunct, or I should say Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces. And today, today, for those who are just listening, we have the cutest little Moonbeam kitty cat on our laps.
Hell yeah.
And then today, the sun is approaching, conjuncting Pluto in Aquarius. So very interesting and collective energies at this moment. And you can also book us for personal readings if you are interested in learning more about your personal chart or getting a personal card reading.
And where can people find you at there, Bren?
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked. You can find me on my Linktree. It's just Linktree/Bren Biggs. And what about you, Rosalie?
You can find me at astrorosalie.com because I was stupid enough to pay a fee every month to get a domain name and build a whole website.
It's called investing in your business and investing in yourself, investing in your future. It's empowering.
You can find me there.
And again, you can find this all in our show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and we can't wait to chat with you all again soon.
Yeah, actually, do you want to give them a sneak peek of what our next meetup is going to be about?
Ooh, yes. So our next meetup is going to take place on February 15th. So we're doing the Astrology of Love. And to satisfy Rosalie, because Rosalie was not happy that we're going to do too much love stuff, because we did do a synastry and composite episode not too long ago. It's going to be more about like all different kinds of facets of love. So like the love not only you have with a lover, but maybe with a mom or with your siblings, or
we'll focus more on like solo charts rather than comparing two charts, essentially.
Yeah, how people want to express love or receive love.
Or find love within yourself.
Yep, which is very important. So yeah.
Or just find the things that you love doing, finding interests. That's actually a really big question that I get more often than not, is like, sometimes I get people that are like, what are my life's purpose? But most people are like, I honestly have trouble enjoying things in life. Like, how can I enjoy life more?
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll break down all those things and how to look forward into it. So look forward to that in February for our next podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate your time, energy, and effort, and we will see you all next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.